This is the AEW Dynamite Maximum Carnage January 15, 2025 full show results video which takes place at Cincinnati's Andrew J. Brady Music Center, Ohio. The show started with a match between Brian Cage versus Kenny Omega. Brian Cage targeting the midsection with shoulder blocks, back body drop. Omega goes for a Frankensteiner, countered on the first try but the second one goes through. Out to the floor, Brian with a military press and he drops Kenny into the announce desk. Archer and Don Callis get their shots in. Cage throwing Omega around, out to the ramp, fighting and Brian powerbombs him back inside. Cover for two, Quebrada connects, putting Kenny inside out, cover for two. In the end, Kenny Omega hits a Liger bomb, then V-trigger, but Cage kick out, then Kenny presses his attack, electric chair, and hits one-winged angel finisher to defeat Brian Cage by pinfall. Post-match, Callis family attacks but Will Ospreay makes the save and he and Kenny work together to send Lance Archer and Kyle Fletcher packing. Kyle Fletcher appears and Ospreay throws himself over the ropes with a plancha to take him out. Konosuke Takeshita arrives and holds the International Championship up in front of Kenny and they start brawling. Fletcher returns and hits a half Nelson suplex on Omega. Takeshita takes him down with a lariat but Will returns to make the save again. Eventually the damn numbers game wins the day and the Callis family stands tall. Then we get a brief promo from Montel Vontavious Porter talking up his skills as a grappler. Back from the commercial, we get Chris Jericho and the Learning Tree in a New York Minute talking about how he guarantees he and Jon Moxley will be on the same page in their tag team match on Saturday night. Then Ricochet makes his entrance, alas not still stained with Shane Strickland's blood. He soaks in the atmosphere of the crowd for a good long beat before calling up a picture of him stabbing Swerve on the Tron. Strickland's music plays and Prince Nana appears behind Ricochet and cracks him with a chair. Shane Strickland appears but Ricochet bolts and makes it out a door. Then we get a day in the life of the CEO video package for Mercedes Moné. The next match happened between Hurt Syndicate versus Mark Briscoe and Private Party. Chaos to start, things settle down, Briscoe on Porter, redneck kung fu in the corner, missile dropkick for one. MVP throws Mark to the floor, getting into it with Benjamin. Montel with the ball and elbow drop on Briscoe, tags made and it's Shelton on Cassidy. Crossbody into right hands, off the ropes, pop-up dropkick takes Benjamin off his feet. Tag to Quen, stereo dropkicks aplenty, Lashley runs in and gets sent to the floor, Private Party hold the ropes open, hits cannonball tope from Mark Briscoe. Quebrada from Isaiah, whip into a cactus clothesline to take MVP out. Bobby powerbomb lifts Mark but he fights out, jumping reverse STO. Lashley throws Briscoe across the floor, poetry in motion from the tag champs, big chokeslam from Big Bob, Shelton throws Isaiah across the ring, Lashley follows it with a spear. In the end, MVP hits a drive-by on Mark on the floor, and Shelton suplexes Quen, and Hurt Syndicate won the match by pinfall with a super kick from Shelton Benjamin on Mark Quen. Back from the commercial, Jeff Jarrett makes his entrance and gets on the mic and he says the last few weeks have been humbling for him, but gets interrupted by MJF. He says Jarrett has yet to learn the definition of the word humbling and says he had the audacity to turn him down. Jeff interrupts to call him lazy and MJF unloads, screaming at him to never interrupt him. He apologizes for losing his cool and says he's a living legend, and Jarrett walks around like he is one too but he wants to school us all on the real history of the last outlaw. He says Double J is the last thing you see before your favorite wrestling company dies. This whole last year would be cuter and warmer and fuzzier if he wasn't literally the pro wrestling Grim Reaper. He calls Jeff an alcoholic and says for the health of this company he'll send him back to rehab where he belongs. But make sure that sexy MILF of a wife sticks around, because Friedman is a big fan of Karen's and when he's through with her he'll ship her back to him so he can be the first man in history to know what a generational talent and an Olympic gold medalist's balls taste like. Jarrett says everything he just said is crude and stupid but it's been said 1,000 times. To get to the heart of the matter, he knows the best years of his career are behind him, but when he entered the Owen Hart Cup last summer, the AEW fanbase awakened a passion and a desire in him that he didn't know he still had. And he's gonna do everything in his power to keep that passion going, because it's what's gonna keep him on track to be the AEW World Champion. But back to Max's shtick, he thinks he's gonna come out here poke his fun and hurt his feelings, but Double J was Max before Max was Max. Everything he does, Jeff did before him and did better than him, but before he gets all bent out of shape, he really confused him and he doesn't know if he's a dumbass or just a scumbag, or maybe all of the above. There are days when he feels very sorry for Friedman, because he had a tough upbringing. It's really tough being raised by a call girl and an ambulance chaser, and he knows for a fact when his dad knocked his mom up she still made him pay for it. As the saying goes, we all marry our mommies because Max's old lady is nothing but a Canadian call girl. And in this very ring, the night Max was tearing it up with Will Ospreay, he was doing his version of 60 Minutes through while his old lady was doing her version in the parking lot with 10 other wrestlers. He says MJF needs him because he's drowning in his own shit, says Max may be lazy, may be an entitled prick, but at the very core he's a scared little boy. Scared that his best years are behind him, scared to death that he'll never be on top again, scared that he's a one-hit wonder. MJF says he's nothing like Jeff, because he didn't need his daddy or his own company to make himself, MJF made MJF. We've talked about Jarrett being king of the mountain, but what happens when Max is on top? 82,000 in Wembley, record ticket sales, record ratings, he was the best in the world and then he got screwed. His name and reputation got dragged through the mud and says he's gonna win the title to shove it down everyone's throat, but in the meantime he has to wait in line for Jeff Jarrett? These people aren't very bright, and with all due respect, no wrestling fan has ever given a single solitary shit about Jarrett. But just because he was best friends with Owen Hart he thinks he's owed a grand finale? Friedman sees through his bull, calling him a carny succubus riding the coattails of his deceased friend. Double J has had enough and unloads right hands on MJF. Security swarms and Karen Jarrett backs him off, but MJF grabs her and uses her to make good his escape. Christian Cage makes his entrance and Hook blindsides him on the ramp and beats him down. Mother Wayne steps up to him and backs down, and Hook advances and the match gets going. Then we saw a match between Christian Cage versus Hook. In the end, Hook jumps out of the corner into Red Rum, Cage is helpless and calls his goon squad in instead of tapping, and Hook won the match by disqualification. Post-match, the patriarchy swarms and Taz is about to get up from the commentary desk to save his son, but then we see the return of Samoa Joe. Joe dismantles the patriarchy one by one, he holds Kip Sabian in place so Shibata can hit Punk kick him. We cut backstage, where Dustin Rhodes talks to Jeff Jarrett about the road they've been down in this business. He is behind Jarrett's dream of becoming world champion and stands beside him against people like MJF. Back at ringside, Mariah May heads down to keep a close eye on our next match. Then we saw a #1 contenders casino gauntlet match for the AEW Women's World Championship at AEW Grand Slam Australia next month. Chris Statlander and Jamie Hayter starts the match, Megan Bayne is out third, Mariah gets surprised, and Bayne drops Statlander with a vicious lariat, vertical suplex on Hayter reversed as the countdown timer ticks. Julia Hart is out fourth, Willow Nightingale is out fifth, Toni Storm is out sixth, and Harley Cameron is out seventh. In the end, Hayter pulls Cameron off into a German suplex, hatebreaker on Hart. Harley with the schoolboy for two, ends with Jairi, off the ropes, she gets a hatebreaker of her own. Duck Haterade, Hart spits the mist at Cameron, Northern Lariat, Storm picks her from behind, and won the match by pinfall with an inside cradle, becoming the #1 contender to the AEW Women's World Championship. In the main event of the show, we saw a match between Jon Moxley vs Powerhouse Will Hobbs for the AEW World Championship, and the result of this match was Jon Moxley defeated Will Hobbs by referee stoppage with the Bulldog Choke, retaining the AEW World Championship. Post-match, Death Riders Pillmanize Will's leg, but rated FTR makes the save, and the AEW Dynamite Maximum Carnage goes off the air. How much you would rate this week's Dynamite show? Let me know in the comments section. Please subscribe the channel, and thanks for watching the video.